God's favor is your shield. What if the reason things don't make sense right now is because something bigger is protecting you? Picture this. A man drives calmly through a monitored intersection. He follows every rule, slows down, stays alert, and still, the camera flashes. Confused, he turns around, tries again, this time even slower, and the flash hits once more. Frustrated, he starts mocking the system, passing multiple times, smiling at the camera as if nothing matters. A week later, 5 tickets arrive. The reason? He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And just like that, reality hits. Sometimes life works the same way. We think we're in control, we laugh at the signs, we ignore the details, and suddenly we realize there are invisible principles at work. Not based on what we feel, but on what we align with. And here's where everything changes. When God's favor is over your life, even what looks like punishment can actually be protection, direction, or preparation. Have you ever felt trapped, like everything around you was closing in? Like the situation was final? Maybe it was a diagnosis, a financial struggle, a betrayal, or a season of loneliness. And in that moment, it's easy to believe that's the end of your story. But what if it's not? What if what you're seeing is only a chapter, not the conclusion? There's a truth many people forget. Your strength alone was never meant to carry you. There is something greater working on your behalf, something unseen, but undeniable. God's favor is not just a concept, it's a force. It protects, redirects, and sustains. And when that favor is on your life, nothing, not failure, not opposition, not even your own mistakes, has the final word. Think about this for a second. How many times did something fall apart, only for something better to come later? At the time, it felt like loss, like injustice, like confusion. But looking back, you realize it was alignment. It was positioning. And maybe right now, you're in the middle of something that doesn't make sense yet. But what if this moment is setting up something greater than you can see? Because where there is favor, there is always a shift coming. Where there is faith, there is always a future waiting. There was a man who was betrayed by those closest to him, sold into a life he didn't choose, and thrown into a place where everything seemed lost. From the outside, it looked like his story had ended. But internally, something kept him going. He refused to let bitterness define him. He stayed faithful in the dark, even when there was no audience, no recognition, no reward. And slowly, step by step, everything began to change. Doors opened that no human could have forced. Situations shifted that no logic could explain. And the same place that looked like the end became the path to elevation. That's what favor does. It doesn't always remove you from the struggle immediately, but it transforms the outcome. Let me ask you something honestly. What voice have you been listening to lately? The one that says, "It's over"? Or the one that whispers, "Keep going"? Because fear is loud. It repeats itself. It tries to convince you that what you see is all there is. But faith speaks differently. It reminds you that there's more happening behind the scenes. That even when nothing seems to move, something is being arranged. And the question is, can you trust that? There was a leader who faced opposition from every side. Limited resources. Powerful enemies. Everything pointing to failure. But instead of focusing on what he didn't have, he focused on who was with him. He declared it over and over, that God's hand was guiding him. And something incredible happened. What should have taken years was completed in a matter of days. Not because conditions were perfect, but because perspective was aligned. And that changes everything. Because when you magnify the problem, you feel small. But when you magnify God, everything else shrinks. Now think about this. What if the challenge in front of you right now isn't bigger than you, but just bigger than your current belief? What if the only thing standing between where you are and where you're meant to be is the way you see it? Because when you understand that favor is over your life, your language changes. You stop saying, "This is too much," and start saying, "This will turn around." You stop shrinking, and you start stepping forward. And here's something powerful. Protection doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it looks like a delay. Sometimes it looks like rejection. Sometimes it looks like a door closing right in front of you. But what if that door was never meant for you in the first place? What if what you're calling loss is actually protection? There are stories of people who escaped danger by seconds. Situations where something small, unexpected, shifted the outcome completely. Some call it coincidence. Others call it luck. But there's something deeper. A covering. A protection that you don't always see, but it's there. And how many times have you been protected without even realizing it? Maybe you're in a storm right now. Everything feels uncertain, unstable, out of your control. But what if the same wind that feels like it's pushing against you is actually positioning you? What if this moment isn't here to break you, but to move you? Because storms don't always destroy. Sometimes they redirect. So here's the question. Are you going to keep seeing this as the end? Or are you going to start seeing it as movement? There was a moment where everything depended on one decision. One vote. One outcome. And at the last second, something shifted. A call came in. A voice entered the situation that no one expected. And everything changed. Not because of effort, but because of alignment. Because favor doesn't just work through what you see, it moves through what you don't even know exists. And maybe that's what's happening in your life right now. Things are being arranged. People are being positioned. Doors are being prepared. And while you're worrying about what's not happening, something is already in motion. There was a woman who fought for years against something that controlled her life. She tried everything. Methods, systems, external help, but nothing lasted. Until one day, something shifted inside. She stopped relying only on her own strength and started trusting something greater. And from that moment, everything began to change. Because some battles are not meant to be won alone. And the moment you realize that, you stop fighting harder and start trusting deeper. So maybe today isn't about having all the answers. Maybe it's about making one decision to trust. Even when it's unclear. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it doesn't make sense. Because here's the truth. You are not alone in this. You are not forgotten. And you are not defeated. God's favor is not something you earn. It's something that surrounds you. It opens doors. It changes outcomes. It protects you from things you never even see coming. And even when you feel like you've reached your limit, that's where it begins to move the most. So take a breath. And ask yourself, what if something good is already on the way? If this message reached you, don't let it stop here. Let it become a decision. A shift. A new way of seeing things. And if you feel it, say it quietly, right where you are. I am covered. I am protected. I am moving forward. Because the same force that has carried you this far is not about to stop now. And maybe, just maybe, the wind that once pushed you back is about to push you into everything you were meant to become.